Did they drive it as well as Tiger? Okay, Rory did. But did they hit their irons as well as Tiger Woods? Did they chip as well as Tiger Woods?
A few months back, I was watching this segment of Brandel Chambly discussing if we have ever truly seen anybody in our game as good as Tiger Woods. Now I know what you're thinking. Clearly we haven't, and this is a nonsense topic to talk about. But really, has anyone even come close to the big cat? Well, I'm here to find out. And I think I found a metric that can help us measure if anybody's even come close to Tiger. This metric that I've come up with, I'm calling peak score. To keep it simple, we just have to know what each of these values means. So, a peak score is basically going to be the accumulation of points from the following categories. A win is going to be 15 points. Second place, 10 points. A third place, 8 points. A top 10, 5 points. A top 25, 2 points. And a made or missed cut is going to be plus or minus 1 point. Each of these factors will be multiplied by 2 for majors. How I'm defining a player's peak is going to be by taking their best 4 consecutive seasons and combining them to find their peak score. I know a few of the years may look off, and that's because the PGA Tour introduced the wraparound season in 2014, but I made sure each player has 4 seasons. First up, of course, we have the measuring stick for any great player, Tiger from 1999 to 2002. During this span, Tiger racked up 27 wins, highlighted by his famous Tiger Slam, where he held all 4 majors at the same time. As we can see here, Tiger racked up many more top finishes in the regular season and in major events, and probably most impressively, over this 4-season span, Tiger had 0 missed cuts. All of this being factored in, Tiger comes out with a peak score of 869. The next guy that I really wanted to take a look at was Jordan Spieth. Spieth's run from 2013 to 2017 was something magical and is trademarked by making putts like these with his trusty putter to lead him to a Masters, a US Open, and a British Open. Altogether in this span, Spieth racked up 10 wins, 10 second place finishes, and 4 third place finishes to sum up to a peak score of 622. While this score doesn't quite rival Tiger's peak stretch, during this time, Spieth put together one of the greatest stretches of golf we've seen in a long time, and trust me, in comparison to other scores, this is a very good peak score. Now you knew we couldn't leave Rory out of this conversation. 2012 to 2015 Rory McIlroy is by far one of my favorite golfers of all time. Finding a true peak stretch for Rory was tough since he's been so good for so long, but this was definitely his best run of his career. It really looked like Rory was getting ready to take over the world of golf at this point. Over the course of this run, Rory tallied 6 regular season wins as well as 3 of his 4 major championships. One thing I found impressive about Rory's peak run is if you look at the other names mentioned throughout this video, Rory played in far less events than them over this span of time and still amounted to a high peak score of 605. Dustin Johnson from 2014 to 2018 was one of the most confident players I've ever seen. Once he finally started to dial in his wedge game, he honestly became unstoppable. His 3-putt at the US Open in 2015 was honestly one of the most heartbreaking things I've watched in golf. And for him to respond the next year and come back and win the same event speaks numbers to the type of player that he is. Throughout his peak, DJ was truly impressive. He won 10 PGA Tour events, 1 of his 2 majors, and had 4 close calls in majors as well, with 4 second place finishes. All of this for a peak score of 606. Next up, we got Scottie Scheffler. And for Scottie, it all started 3 years ago at the 2022 Phoenix Open. He had been so close a number of times and finally broke through for his first win, and since then, he's never looked back. And only 2 months and 4 putts on the final hole later, Scottie won his first of his 2 green jackets. Now, while I didn't factor it in for Scottie since not everybody on this list has gotten to compete in the Olympics, it's worth mentioning Scottie's gold medal he won this past year. You can factor that in however you'd like. Nevertheless, Scottie is on a generational run that is still ongoing, and it seems like there's no end in sight. So far, Scottie's ongoing peak has accounted for 11 PGA Tour wins, 2 majors, and a number of second place finishes, all for a peak score of 693 and counting. I know for a fact that this next guy on the list is going to catch you really off guard, because I know it did for me. The numbers Vijay Singh managed to produce during his peak years are truly remarkable. While he only won 1 major during his peak stretch, Vijay managed to win 18 PGA Tour events, including 9 events in 1 year during 2004. Over this 4-season stretch, Vijay played in 114 events and made all but 11 of the cuts, had 9 second place finishes and 31 top 10s. Clearly, Vijay was a model of consistency, and that consistency earned him a peak score of 803. 803 points. Easily second place to... Oh. That's right. Tiger's closest peak score contender is himself from 2005 to 2008 with a score of 830. With more PGA Tour wins and just 1 less major in this stretch as compared to his first peak, this just further shows Tiger is in a class of his own. Here's a list of the top 10 peak scores that I found in my search for the greatest peaks since the turn of the century, plus a couple honorable mentions. At number 8, Phil had a very good peak with 8 PGA Tour victories along with 3 majors. While this may not be as high as some people think, this list isn't trying to say one player is better than another, but simply look at their peak. I agree that Phil's had a better career than some of the names above him, but his peak was just a little bit lower. At number 9, JT had a hell of a run from 2016 to 2020. He won 11 times along with adding 1 of his 2 majors. At number 10, Jon Rahm is another one of those players that maybe his peak wasn't as high as some would think, but he was very dominant during his 2019 to 2023 stretch. Much like Rory, he's another guy who didn't play as many events as some of the names above him. The first of our 2 honorable mentions, Jason Day was an absolute stud during his 2013 to 2016 run. He was able to win 8 PGA Tour events along with adding his lone major to his resume. And last but not least, our second honorable mention, Brooks Koepka. I wanted to see what Brooks' peak score would be simply because of the 4 majors he won in the 2016 to 2020 run. After crunching the numbers, he simply just didn't perform near as well in the regular season events as he did in the majors, only winning 2 regular season titles. What's up guys? I really appreciate you sticking around this long if you're still here. This video was a lot of fun to make and I learned quite a bit that I didn't previously know. If you guys enjoy stuff like this and want to see more in the future, feel free to like and subscribe so I can do more moving forward. Comment below any names you wish you would have seen on this list or anyone on this list that surprises you. Anyway, this has been Breezy. I'm out.